All right, guys. There's two coaches I always said I wish I had the chance to play football for. One of them, not a chance in the world of me doing that, but one of them was Bill Cowher from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I've always been a diehard Steelers fan, but Cowher always had that emotion that I like to play for a coach like that. The other one, I got a little closer, but just wasn't the right age, and that was Mr. Dave Davis. Dave Davis was the coach at Northeast Academy. He was headmaster, athletic director of Northeast Academy. That's my alma mater. I also went to Hobgood Academy for a while, Scotland Neck High School, Camden County High School, and spent a year on ECU's coaching the defensive staff. But most of his career was spent at Ferrum College, where he stayed from December 93, almost 94. And he retired at the end of the 2011 season, had a lot of success at Ferrum. We're just thrilled and honored to have him here with us today. Coach Davis, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
I just can't tell you all the stories. For those that you don't know, my daddy worked at Northeast when Mr. Davis was over there. And the stories I heard and the stuff I saw, are legendary. One of probably the best coach at Northeast Academy. And when I was named head football coach 8 years ago, it was just hard to believe that I was in the same shoes that Coach Davis was. But just want to tell you what an honor it is to be able to talk to you about some football here.
Well, I tell you, it's an honor to talk about the old days. They were the good old pure days of football.
A lot's changed since those days, that's for sure. First of all, football. I know you were big in sports. Was football always your first love?
Well, I was a very active child, and I played football, basketball, baseball, and really whatever was in season was what I loved to play.
Right.
I just enjoyed competing and being out there. I had some success in all of them. I think I knew all along that I wanted to be a coach. I just wasn't real sure what sport I would wind up in.
Right. Well, when did that hit you that you wanted to be a football coach?
It probably happened at Northeast. They didn't have football when I first came to Northeast, and I coached basketball then, and we had some good players and some good athletes, and then there was an interest in the community in starting football. So once that happened, and I had a chance to get involved in it, I learned that football is a very strategic sport. It's a very intellectual sport, and you have more control over the game as a football coach than you do as a basketball coach.
Right.
The ball's going in or it's not going in basketball. I can make adjustments and changes in football, and I just fell in love with it and followed that path.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, you set up. I know in football, on both sides of the ball, you're setting up plays 3-4 plays ahead, or even 3-4 possessions ahead with one play you call there. So, like you said, you got more control of it. You're setting. It's kind of like playing chess. You're setting pieces in place as the game goes on.
Yeah. And I enjoy that. I enjoy the adjustments and the strategy that goes into competing against another staff. I really enjoy that.
Well, speaking of Northeast, when you were there, I know y'all had some great teams. What do you feel like some of your best players were at Northeast, or your best teams? I know you had a few of them.
Well, I don't know that it would be very easy to pick the best player. Back in those days of my coaching career, kids played sports because they loved to play and they loved to compete, and it was just very pure and very natural. And I could take every player to play for me and have something great to say about them, because they worked hard, they played hard, and you know exactly what you could get from them every time they went out there. So under those conditions, every player's great. And in terms of teams, I remember a good basketball team. I remember 2 or 3 good football teams. I think it's more of a memory of certain games and certain things that went on in games that is stronger to me than a particular team or whatever.
What your biggest rival back then was that? I know we had Enfield Academy then. Like right now, I think the biggest rival at Northeast is definitely Halifax. But was it?
Well, I think Halifax was coming on pretty strong in the scene, particularly when I moved on to Hobgood and then came back to Northeast. They were getting a lot stronger and getting a lot better. And so they were towards the end a big rival. And Enfield initially was the big rivalry game, and we were the newcomers on the block, and we weren't supposed to beat established programs. And that's one of the games I remember, is beating Enfield at Enfield.
Yeah, that's
move on in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's that was one of the things that I hear a lot of stories about from guys that played under you. I don't remember exactly the game, but there was one game I think y'all played an away game, and Diddy has told me this a few times too, that they didn't play the best game, and I think you told them that when y'all got back to the field, y'all were going to practice, and that I don't think any of them believed it until they got back and got off the bus and you started turning the field lights on and y'all started practicing. I don't know if
I've done a lot of crazy things in my career. So
yeah, but that one always stuck out with me because I know. I've been told that a few times by coaches that if y'all, especially when we were playing a team that we should beat, and I guess to kind of keep us from playing down to their level, I know we were told if we weren't up by a certain amount at the half, we were practicing the next day. So, yeah, but that one always stuck out with me and I've heard it from a couple of players that played for you too.
But it must have happened then.
But so yeah, beating Enfield at Enfield. And somehow, for some reason, Daddy's a game against Ravenscroft. Did y'all play Ravenscroft?
We did in Raleigh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That game stood out because I can remember Daddy going to that game. But Daddy had Daddy has a lot of good memories from your time there, and I know he hated to see you go. So you spent time at Hobgood, and then how was your time at Hobgood?
The small schools are so much fun to work with and work at. And like I say, during those times, the players would give you everything they had. And I enjoyed both Northeast and Hobgood. And I came back to Northeast as headmaster, which was a new and different thing for me at the time. I really didn't have any clue what I was doing. But it was an experience.
Yeah, I think he did a pretty good job for somebody that didn't know what he was doing before. So I got to ask you this. How do you end up on ECU's coaching staff?
Well, it's kind of a long story. I was finishing my master's degree at East Carolina, and I was getting ready to take my orals and writtens, which are an all-day event, and I needed some study time. And I lived in Elizabeth City then, and driving back and forth to Greenville, and that was a pretty good trip. It was a lot of wasted time that I could have been studying. So I just happened to drop by, and I knew Coach Henry, and I just dropped by and said, "Hey, you have a place I can stay and study for a couple of days?" And he put me up in a hotel, and I studied and did okay on the comps and got my degree. And then when I went back to give Ed the key to the room back, he said something to me about, "Are you interested in being here?" And I had known some of his coaches for a while, and one of them obviously recruited Camden. I'm doing pretty well, and Ed had said that he had recommended me, so that's how it got started. And that's how it happened. I just decided to go ahead and take a chance and do it. And,
so you spent what was it, a year or 2 years there?
About a year and a half there at East Carolina.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then you end up going to Ferrum. I know you spent a few years as assistant there at Ferrum before you were head coach. So how did the Ferrum job come about?
Well, we were as much as I loved the football part of coaching in East Carolina, recruiting was different back in those days.
Yeah.
So I was gone, and I had to stay in Florida, which is my recruiting there, which is nice to have in the winter. But the weather was nice, but the time away from your family was really tough. And I might be gone a month or more at a time, and it was difficult on my children and my wife at that time. So we just decided if I was going to stay in coaching, we were going to change paces. We weren't going to stay at Division I. And when it happened, one of our coaches got on at Florida State with Bobby Biden and called me and asked me if I wanted to come down to Florida State with him. And I said, no, I'm going to go a different route. And some of our coaches knew Hank Norton, who was the head coach of Ferrum. He's a legendary guy. And they said, this is the perfect place for you. You and him will hit it off like two peas in a pod. So I went down on my Sunday and met him, and we wanted an interview. We just sat there and talked. And the next day, it was all done. And I went in there, and I don't know that I came planning on staying all those years, but I stayed there 27 years.
Yes, sir.
That's a long time to be anywhere, I guess.
Yeah, this day and time, for a coach to be there as long as you were at Ferrum, that is a long time. So you end up taking over as head coach in December of '93. You stay head coach for 17 years.
Yes.
And finished with an 87-79 record. You want to share the USA?
You know more than I do.
I did my research. I always have to do my research on it. So your 2005 team, which I know you say it's hard to pick a best team, but that was record-wise and performance-wise, that was your best team.
That was a very good offensive team. We weren't particularly talented on defense, but we were a very good offensive team, and the offense carried us that year. And that was the main reason we made it as far as we did was because of the offense.
Yeah, your offense, your rushing offense in particular, you had 361 yards rushing a game. That's pretty impressive there.
I remember we played one team and punt all day long.
Well, that's always a good thing.
Scored on every possession. Scored on every possession except one, and time ran out at halftime. We scored on that one.
Wow.
And I had to make a long trip home, and this is an interesting story. The head coach called and left a message on my machine. We got in probably 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I saw the light thing, so I checked it. It was the head coach of the school we played called and said we met with his staff, and they decided to reimburse us for putting up our punter and feeding our punter because we didn't need it. So they kept on sending us some money.
That's pretty good there. So
that was a good offensive team. And then I think it was probably 2 or 3 years before that we were the number 1 defensive team in the nation.
Yeah, 2008.
So we had we never could seem to get it all together on the same year.
It would be nice. I mean, if you'd had the 2005 team with that offense, your 2000 team first in the nation.
We would have won the national championship, probably.
Yeah, you only allowed 165 yards a game. I mean, that's you were but you got 2005 USA South Football Coach of the Year. You've had 10 players earn Conference Player of the Year awards under you, 1 All-American and 1 Academic All-American. So, I mean, you've definitely had some talent up there at Ferrum, and I can remember, I always bragged about it. A Northeast coach was coaching college players. I think you were assistant when he was there. How about Chris Warren?
He was he was a special player, but that team, Chris Warren's senior year, the team we had then was probably the best team in the nation. And we turned the ball over 7 times in the semifinal game to keep us from winning. And we only lost by 6 points. We turned it over 7 times. We had a good defense. We had good offensive players. That was probably the best team we had at Fred.
Yeah. For those of y'all that don't know who Chris Warren is, if you hadn't watched football in the last 20 years, Chris Warren was a All-Pro at Seattle, went on to play with Dallas and Philadelphia running back, and he was a major talent, definitely. So coaching doesn't fall, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You got Brian, your son Brian's at North Brunswick now. How many times do you get calls from him for advice?
Well, I try not to get in the middle of all that. He calls occasionally, and we'll talk about stuff. But he has a different approach to football than I do. He loves to working with the kids, which I enjoyed that. But he loves that more than anything else. And I love the strategies and the X's and O's more than anything else. So sometimes my X's and O's get a little bit too complicated for the high school level right now. So
right.
I don't know that I can help him too much right now.
Right, but he's definitely doing a good job at North Brunswick. He's been a couple of places. I try to keep up with him, but anyway.
He seems to be one of those guys that has the magic touch in turning teams around. And he goes to places that haven't won in years, and the next thing you know, they're in the playoffs.
He's definitely
got that touch.
He's definitely doing something right. That's for sure. Before I let you go, I just like I said before, wanted to make sure you knew how much I appreciate you doing this for me. It's been a dream of mine to be able to talk to you about football, and I know it's kind of short, but I'm not going to take up much of your time. I know you're a busy man, but I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you doing this, and we loved you at Northeast. Like I said, matter of fact, I know I told you, we've got also a football award named after you now. It's the Leadership Award. It's the Dave Davis Leadership Award. That's been going on since I've been head coach. Made sure that happened. But
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I wanted to honor you somehow because you were the one that started football at Northeast, and we just appreciate everything you did for Northeast back then. And thank you for everything you're doing now.
Well, thank you for calling, and I hope you enjoy your shows and keep doing a good job.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Davis. Guys, that's legendary coach, Mr. Dave Davis right there, and we thank him this morning for joining us, and that's going to do it for today. Thank you for your time, Mr. Davis.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.